Hi, my name is Brodie Nathaniel Diorsa MacLeod, and I've recently invented 10 different absolutely revolutionary products. And I'm looking to take these products to market and sell the intellectual property as quickly as possible. I'd like to exchange contracts immediately, and although I am currently in room number 6 at Nash Ward, which is a psychiatric facility, I have full capacity to sell my own intellectual property and should be, according to a meeting we had today, leaving the hospital very soon. I've had a very contraindicative and complex set of experiences whilst I've been at the hospital. I won't go into those in too much detail. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a description of the 10 inventions that I've made. They set to completely revolutionise the architecture of modern artificial intelligence, medicine, defence, aerospace, and media. So without further ado, let's see if there's anything that you might be interested in. I'm open to contact from companies like Nvidia, Microsoft, Apple, and Tesla if you're interested in speaking to me. I've been the victim of cybercrime. I can give you my phone number. It's 07576 713 026, but inbound calls are being prevented from accessing my mobile phone. And I've had a lot of trouble with people trying to phone me up at the ward office and those messages not getting back to me. So if you could or want to reach me, just come to the hospital, ring on the buzzer and say you'd like to speak to Brodie MacLeod on Nash Ward. If they tell you that I'm not here, then they're not telling you the truth. I'm going to get into this set of inventions now. I've put the phone into flight mode and turned off the Wi-Fi so I don't get any interruptions with notifications or jargon or messages or whatever, phone calls. But normally it's not on airplane mode, and by all means do try to phone me or get me on WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram. The Imagenta 2.0 paradigm, a multi-trillion pound blueprint for the post-digital quantum photonic era. The global economy stands on the precipice of a monumental technological transition. For the past half century, the entire digital revolution has been built upon a relatively static foundation: silicon microchips, spinning magnetic hard drives, flat two-dimensional glass screens, and mechanical sensors. Today, this legacy infrastructure is breaking down under the weight of its own success. The explosion of generative artificial intelligence, the exponential generation of unstructured global data, and the relentless pursuit of autonomous robotics have pushed the classical electronics to their absolute physical limits. The magnificent technology giants of our era are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to build massive data centers, yet they're increasingly bottlenecked by the physical limitations of the hardware itself. The necessity to completely revolutionise the entire information technology substrate on Earth is no longer a futuristic luxury. It is an immediate existential mandate for the tech industry. To transcend these bottlenecks, our foundational hardware architectures must evolve from classical heat-generating electronics into advanced photonic and quantum modalities. We must abandon the slow mechanical movement of physical parts and embrace the speed of light and the bizarre, limitless rules of quantum mechanics. This presentation serves as an exhaustive journalistic deep dive into exactly how that revolution will manifest. Detailed within this report are 10 highly advanced, entirely unique product architectures, collectively known as the Imagenta 2.0 suite. These are not iterative improvements or minor software updates. They represent fundamental displacements of current technology. Each of these inventions has rapidly matured from foundational theoretical physics into commercially viable, highly scalable designs that utilize existing manufacturing capabilities. Over the next 10-year forecast period, the portfolio of an intellectual property which I own is projected to capture a massive market share across multiple multi-trillion pound sectors. I know this seems hard to believe, but just bear with me. Cumulatively, the total addressable market value of these 10 interconnected platforms is rigorously forecasted to exceed 11 trillion British pounds. The following sections provide an extensive explanation of each invention written in accessible layman's terms. This report strips away the complex physics equations to explain exactly what each technology is, how it functions mechanically, why it is entirely unprecedented in the current market, and the staggering economic rationale behind its 10-year valuation. So let's kick off with invention number one. Upconversion nanoparticle volumetric 3D displays in silica aerogel matrices. So the realization of true glasses-free three-dimensional holographic displays has historically been the ultimate holy grail of the communications and entertainment industries. For decades, our pursuit of 3D has been hindered by the limitations of stereoscopic trickery. Current virtual reality, VR, and extended reality, XR headsets force the human eye to focus on flat, microscopic screen positioned mere millimeters away, while software artificially simulates depth by presenting slightly different images to each eye. This biological disconnect between where the eye is focusing and where the brain believes the object exists leads to severe optical fatigue, motion sickness, even nausea, fundamentally limiting the amount of time professionals can spend working in these virtual environments. So the first invention is the Imagenta 2.0 portfolio completely abandons flat screens, heavy headsets, and optical illusions. It produces a true solid-state volumetric display. In simple terms, it creates a physical glowing object out of thin air that you can walk entirely around and view from any angle, just like a real object. At its core, the hardware relies on a monolithic block of highly porous transparent glass known as silica aerogel. Aerogels are often referred to as solid smoke. They are the lightest solid materials on Earth, composed almost entirely of air, making them perfectly transparent and visually invisible. This transparent canvas is infused with highly engineered chemical structure called lanthanide doped upconversion nanoparticles, or UCMPs for short. To understand how this works, imagine this block of solid smoke is filled with billions of microscopic invisible chemical fireflies. Hidden within the chassis of the display, beneath the block, the arrays of standard infrared laser pointers are exact same cheap, reliable lasers used in telecommunications. These lasers shoot invisible beams up into the glass block. When a single invisible laser beam passes through the block, nothing happens. The human eye sees nothing. However, when two of these invisible laser beams intersect at a specific pinpoint coordinate inside the block, the combined energy triggers the chemical fireflies at that exact microscopic intersection, a bit like a pixel in 3D. So they instantly absorb the invisible light, merge its energy, and emit a brilliant visible flash of coloured light. So by rapidly sweeping these intersecting lasers back and forth through the glass block millions of times a second, the system draws a glowing three-dimensional sculpture of light. Because the image physically exists in three-dimensional space, multiple people can view the data simultaneously with perfect natural depth perception. A scientific breakthrough enabling this is upconversion, the ability of these specific nanoparticles to swallow multiple low-energy invisible photons and spit out a single high-energy visible photon without losing power to heat. This technology is entirely unique because it possesses absolutely no moving mechanical parts, rotating screens or spinning mirrors, drastically reducing its physical footprint and eliminating mechanical degradation. It's poised to immediately disrupt high-end digital signage, medical imaging visualization, and collaborative engineering, replacing flat monitors entirely. Now this chart here might seem a little bit ridiculous. It's got the sort of 25-year industry value and then 2035 sort of industry value. That's based on that research which is calibrated and replicated. The 10-year market value of the product is 1.8 trillion. Now, I know you might think that that's absolutely absurd. It's more money than anybody is worth just from the first invention. But this is huge, you know. There's 8 billion people in the world. Everyone is going to want one of these, and that's not accounting for all the businesses and defense and design and product marketing and advertising, and there's just an absolutely phenomenal market for upscaled 3D true holographic imaging, which is workable and possible. Hasn't existed yet, but with this technology, this is something which I've taken to rigorous tests and have found to be extremely commercially viable with existing technologies and have library of peer-reviewed articles to support each invention in the list. So it says, over the next 10 years, the exploding demand for immersive, data-intensive collaboration will push this specific display hardware from a niche enterprise tool into a multi-trillion pound communication standard, yielding an estimated market capture of 1.80 trillion. It seems like a lot, and it could be an overestimate, but that is based on research conducted extensively using multiple different sources. Potassium tantalate niobate electro-optic LiDAR scanners for autonomous mobility. Autonomous mobility is lorries, it's drones, it's cars, it's planes, it's robo-taxis, it's Amazon delivery drones, it's everything. So the global autonomous vehicle AV industry, encompassing self-driving robo-taxis, commercial trucking and automated agricultural machinery, is critically reliant on light detection and ranging, or LiDAR as they call it, to map the physical world and avoid collisions. Current self-driving cars utilize mechanical LiDAR systems. If you look at a prototype self-driving car today, you will see a bulky spinning mechanical bucket mounted on the roof. Inside that bucket, physical motors are rapidly rotating heavy mirrors to sweep a laser beam across the road, measuring the distance to pedestrians and other cars. These mechanical systems are the Achilles heel of the autonomous revolution. They are incredibly expensive, bulky and overwhelmingly fragile. The intense vibrations of driving over potholes combined with extreme heat and freezing temperatures cause these moving mechanical parts to warp, break and fail, rendering the vehicle blind. So the second invention entirely eradicates these moving parts, replacing the spinning mechanical mirrors with a single motionless microscopic crystal chip made of a material called potassium tantalate niobate, KTN. To understand this in layman's terms, think of the KTN crystal as an electronic prism or a high-tech pinball flipper for light. The scanner consists of this tiny crystal sandwiched between two electrical plates. When the vehicle is on board, the computer applies a simple electrical voltage to these plates. The crystal instantaneously reacts by altering its internal optical density, the physical property that determines how light bends when it passes through a material. As the laser beam travels through this newly altered crystal, the light bends sharply. By simply turning the electrical voltage up and down at extreme speeds, the system can sweep the laser beam back and forth across the road millions of times in a second. This phenomenon is known as the electro-optic effect, and KTN crystals possess the highest known electro-optic bending power of any material on Earth. Historically, KTN crystals were difficult to use because natural impurities inside them distorted the light. However, this invention utilizes advanced manufacturing techniques that apply careful temperature controls while the crystal is grown, ironing out these impurities and drastically widening the angle at which the beam can be steered. Because there's absolutely no physical movement involved, only silent electricity altering a solid crystal, the scanner is completely immune to mechanical wear and tear and operates more than 100 times faster than conventional spinning mirrors. It can be mass produced cheaply at the size of a standard microchip, allowing cars to have dozens of them embedded invisibly into the bumpers and the headlights. So again, you've got a chart with 3.5 trillion valuation. I don't know how many autonomous vehicles there are in the world, but literally every single one of them could be fitted with this technology. Sorry, I had to stop the recording there. Just had a knock at my bedroom door. So anyway, global regulatory, this industry invention is going to be in all autonomous vehicles, and it's worth an awful lot of money. It says it's worth 3.5 trillion. You might find that hard to believe, but it's certainly worth an awful lot of money over the 10-year period if you consider market deployment to have accurately been successful and penetration to the market at the sort of rates that it would be in literally every single autonomous vehicle which uses a LiDAR. So as global regulatory bodies mandate higher autonomy and safety standards, the transition to solid-state KTN architecture is basically inevitable. This technology will become the absolute hardware standard for transportation, allowing early early mover suppliers to capture a dominant fraction of the global mobility ecosystem. The total market valued at an estimated 3.5 trillion over the next decade. Third invention is acousto-optic deflector 3D medical scanners for surgical navigation. So in the field of high resolution medical imaging and robotic assisted surgery, doctors utilize powerful lasers to peer deep into living tissue, allowing them to map out the exact borders of cancerous tumours or watch blood flow through tiny vessels in real time. The fundamental bottleneck in current medical microscopes is the physical speed at which they can focus. To change the depth of focus to look deeper into a lung or brain, the microscope must use a physical motor to slide a heavy glass lens closer or further away from the patient. Moving a physical piece of glass on a mechanical track is agonizingly slow when compared to the speed of biological events. It's far too slow to capture neurons firing in the brain or to keep a crisp image of a tumor while a patient's chest is heaving up and down as they breathe. The third invention entirely eliminates moving glass lenses, replacing them with a completely solid-state technology called acousto-optic deflectors, AODs. To understand an AOD in layman's terms, imagine dropping a large stone into a calm pond. The stone creates ripple rings of waves across the surface of the water. If you were to shine a flashlight across those ripples, the light would bend and scatter as it hits the peaks and valleys of the water. An AOD works on this exact same principle, but instead of using a stone and water, it uses high-frequency sound waves and a solid crystal. A tiny component that vibrates when electricity is applied is glued to the side of the special crystal. This component blasts high-frequency, inaudible sound waves straight through the solid crystal. These sound waves create dense, invisible ripples of pressure inside the glass. When the medical laser passes through these sound ripples, the light is caught by the pressure waves and deflected. By simply changing the pitch of the sound wave, similar to playing different higher notes on a piano, the surgeon can instantly change the angle of the laser. Furthermore, by overlapping these sound waves to create complex chirps of sound, the pressure waves inside the crystal form the shape of a virtual invisible lens. This allows the microscope to snap its focus to any three-dimensional coordinate inside an organ in a fraction of a microsecond. This technology is entirely unique on the market because it allows surgical robots to track the exact shifting margins of a tumour in real time without a single moving mechanical part, ensuring that surgeons never accidentally cut healthy tissue because of a blurry or slow image. I won't bother you with the market valuation tables because they're not complete in this AI generated document, but as global hospitals transition to value-based care models, reducing surgical trauma and operating room times becomes paramount. Manufacturers supplying AOD integration navigation hardware will secure lucrative long-term procurement contracts, commanding a projected 65 billion market share by 2035. The fourth invention is lanthanide doped 3D optical data storage drives for cloud infrastructure. So the server farms that we've got at the moment are going to be the size of football pitches in 10 years, and we're going to need multiple football pitches, like 100 of them, to store all the data. We're going to create petabytes of it, trillions of terabytes. So the modern digital economy is running out of physical space to store data. Global data generation fueled by video streaming, corporate archives, and the massive data sets required to train artificial intelligence is projected to exceed 170 zettabytes by the end of the decade. Currently, this data is stored in massive server farms the size of small cities, relying on traditional spinning magnetic hard drives and silicon solid-state drives. These legacy systems are an ecological disaster. They require massive continuous amounts of electricity and industrial air conditioning just to prevent the hard drives from melting or the magnetic data from degrading over time. So the fourth invention, 3D optical data storage, ODS, resolves this crisis by storing information physically inside solid blocks of transparent tungsten phosphate glass. In layman's terms, instead of writing data flat onto the two-dimensional surface of a spinning disc, like an old CD or DVD, this technology uses specialized lasers to stack hundreds of vertical layers of data deep inside the internal volume of the glass block. The glass is embodied with microscopic light-emitting nanoparticles, a specialized ultrafast laser project that beams into the glass, burning a microscopic glowing void, a voxel that acts as a single piece of digital computer code. To read the data back, a lower power scanner simply sweeps over the glass and decodes the glow. What makes this groundbreaking is its ability to bypass a fundamental limitation of physics known as the diffraction limit. Normally, the laws of physics dictate that you cannot focus a beam of light into a spot smaller than the light's own wavelength. This inherently limits how small you can make a piece of data. However, this invention uses a brilliant depletion trick. A primary laser strikes the glass to create a glowing data point. Simultaneously, a second donut-shaped laser strikes the exact same spot. This donut laser instantly erases the glow everywhere except in the absolute infinitesimal center of the donut hole. Trying to explain high-tech stuff in layman's terms is a bit of a lost metaphor there, but this technique compresses the data points to nanoscale dimensions, allowing a single small block of glass to hold petabytes of information, the equivalent of thousands of standard hard drives. Furthermore, tungsten phosphate glass is incredibly durable. It's entirely immune to water damage, electromagnetic pulses, and extreme heat, meaning the data will survive for centuries without requiring a single watt of electricity to maintain it. Vendors transitioning enterprise server farms from legacy magnetic tapes to nanophotonic 3D ODS stand to radically reduce their real estate footprints and eradicate their cooling bills, capturing an estimated $3 trillion in recurring cloud storage revenue over 10 years. The fifth invention is silicon on sapphire microwave to optical quantum transducers. These things are very good. Quantum computers possess the potential to revolutionize human civilization, capable of solving complex chemical and mathematical problems in seconds that would take our greatest traditional supercomputers millions of years. However, a major physical hurdle remains: creating a quantum internet to connect these individual quantum computers together to share processing powers. The problem is a massive language and energy barrier. Superconducting quantum computers process information using extremely cold, low-energy microwave frequencies. Conversely, the global telecommunications internet transmits data over long distances using high-energy optical light traveling through fiber optic cables. Bridging this massive energy gap, translating a microwave into a light beam without destroying the incredibly fragile quantum data, is one of the hardest engineering challenges in modern physics. The fifth invention solves this by utilizing a silicon on sapphire microwave to optical transducer. In layman's terms, this is a microscopic translator chip that sits right at the boundary of the deep freeze refrigerators where quantum computers are housed. A microwave signal carrying the quantum data enters the chip and is caught by a tiny mechanical vibrating structure, much like a microscopic diving board made of silicone. The impact of the microwave makes the diving board physically vibrate. Simultaneously, a standard laser beam shines onto the vibrating diving board. The physical vibration modulates the bouncing laser light, perfectly imprinting the delicate quantum data onto the light beam, which is then sent down a standard fiber optic cable to another city. The groundbreaking, unique element of this specific invention is the use of a sapphire base. In older designs, the intense heat generated by the laser shining on the chip would cause background thermal vibrations that completely shattered the fragile quantum signal. Sapphire, however, is an incredibly hard, clear gemstone that acts as a perfect electrical insulator while simultaneously being a master heat conductor at extreme sub-zero temperatures. By building the silicon diving board directly onto the sapphire gemstone, the sapphire instantly sucks all the destructive heat away from the system, allowing quantum data to be translated flawlessly with almost zero signal loss. This silicon on sapphire optomechanical chip serves as the definitive foundational infrastructure for the imminent quantum internet, unlocking perfectly secure global networks, capturing a 400 billion market share by 2035. So the sixth invention is holographic 3D air traffic control command station. So global airspace is becoming intensely, dangerously congested with the compounding integration of commercial passenger flights, fleets of package delivery drones, and upcoming air mobility vehicles. Air taxis, the skies are more crowded than ever, yet air traffic control officers are still primarily relying on flat two-dimensional radar screens to manage this chaos. Controllers are forced to endure immense cognitive strain, constantly performing mental mathematics to translate flat radar blips and text-based altitude numbers into a three-dimensional mental map of the sky. This mental transition is exhausting and introduces severe risk of fatal human error. The sixth invention entirely replaces these flat screens with volumetric 3D air traffic control command stations. In layman's terms, this technology places a large, transparent, physical cylinder in the center of the control room. Inside this glass cylinder, a glowing, color-coded 3D holographic map of the surrounding airspace floats in mid-air. Controllers can walk entirely around the cylinder, looking at the exact physical altitudes and flight paths of aircraft represented as floating 3D icons. This system even pulls in weather data to render incoming thunderstorms as volumetric glowing clouds, allowing controllers to easily and intuitively thread airplane safely through safe corridors in severe weather. The technology behind this relies on high-speed, swept volume mechanics. Inside the cylinder, a specialized diffuser screen spins continuously at hundreds of revolutions per minute, driven by a silent industrial motor. An ultra-high-speed projector, synchronized with the motor, beams thousands of flat, two-dimensional cross-sectional images onto the spinning screen every single second. Because the human eye is biologically slow to process rapidly changing images, a phenomenon called the persistence of vision, the brain blurs all these rapidly moving flat slices together, creating the seamless illusion of a solid, persistent 3D globe of light. This technology natively interfaces with modern 3D military and civil radar arrays, converting complex spatial mathematics into intuitive visual data with zero lag. It is entirely unique because it physically renders data in a shared physical space without requiring any augmented reality headsets or glasses, drastically reducing controller fatigue and improving collision detection. By transitioning legacy radar infrastructure to swept volume 3D command interfaces, this technology addresses critical global safety bottlenecks, protecting a capture of $35 billion in long-term civil and military procurement contracts. Invention number 7, triplet fusion upconversion industrial 3D printers. Industrial 3D printing, additive manufacturing has revolutionized the aerospace, automotive, and healthcare sectors by allowing engineers to create highly complex, bespoke physical components that are impossible to carve out as standard blocks of metal or plastic. However, printing objects with microscopic detail currently relies on a process called two-photon lithography. This traditional method operates by using an incredibly expensive, high-powered laser to trace the object point by point, layer by layer, making the manufacturing process agonizingly slow and commercially unviable for mass production. The seventh invention shatters this definitive speed limit by utilizing triplet fusion upconversion nanocapsules. So in layman's terms, this printer completely discards the idea of tracing an object layer by layer. Instead, it uses a transparent vat filled with liquid plastic resin. Multiple low-power, inexpensive laser beams are projected onto the vat from different angles, intersecting in the exact center of the liquid. Where these visible beams cross, their combined energy triggers a highly localized chemical reaction that creates a flash of ultraviolet light. This flash of light instantly cures and hardens the liquid plastic into a solid. Because these laser beams can be shaped holographically to intersect in incredibly complex geometries, entire three-dimensional objects freeze and materialize out of the liquid simultaneously, completely bypassing the need to print layer by layer. The underlying chemistry that makes this possible relies on carefully paired organic molecules enclosed within microscopic glass capsules to protect them from degrading in the raw plastic. These molecules act like runners in a relay race, so a sensitizer molecule absorbs the low energy light and passes the energy into an annihilator partner. When two energized partners dynamically collide in the liquid, they merge their energy to create a burst of high energy light needed to cure the plastic. This allows the printer to use standard low power continuous lasers instead of massively expensive ultra fast lasers. The groundbreaking chemistry achieves a production rate which is millions of times faster than traditional microscopic printing, producing millions of voxels per second. This massive structural advantage establishes an £85 billion foothold in the global industrial hardware procurement sector. So deep learning driven 3D molecular docking simulators. This is very cool. So the traditional pharmaceutical drug discovery pipeline is severely broken. It is a notoriously inefficient process hindered by decades of clinical trials, astronomical capital expenditure, and devastatingly high late-stage failure rates. Finding a specific chemical molecule that perfectly fits into and neutralizes a disease-causing biological protein is akin to finding a microscopic needle in a haystack. The eighth invention is a high-performance cloud-based software platform that utilizes deep learning and artificial intelligence to execute 3D molecular docking. In layman's terms, this platform acts as an automated, infinitely fast master locksmith trying billions of unique keys inside a complex lock. A medical researcher inputs the genetic sequence of the 3D physical structure of a target protein, such as specific mutation of lung cancer or an infectious virus. The platform's integrated AI engines then rapidly invent entirely new, never before seen chemical structures and visually dock them into the target protein in a virtual 3D environment. This is huge in medicine terms. So the uniqueness of this platform lies in its highly advanced thermodynamic physics engine. It does not just look at physics shapes like puzzle pieces, it calculates the exact atomic level spatial arrangements, the electrical charges and the thermodynamic energy that is released when the two molecules bind together. A larger release of binding energy mathematically proves that the drug interaction is a highly stable and incredibly potent. Furthermore, the AI can design complex synthetic lethality therapies. Now, that means designing a single highly intelligent molecule that can simultaneously bind to and collapse multiple defensive pathways of a tumour at the same time, overcoming the cancer's ability to mutate and resist the drug. Because this entire process occurs across distributed cloud supercomputers rather than relying on scientists physically mixing chemicals in a laboratory, the software can screen tens of millions of compounds in a matter of days. It visually highlights structural incompatibilities or potential toxicities before a single physical drug is ever synthesized. As the healthcare sector shifts heavily towards precision medicine and personalized biologics, reliance on advanced computational biology is absolute. This platform is forecast to secure an immense 1.50 trillion downstream revenue margin by revolutionizing the entire global healthcare supply chain. Invention number 9 is wearable 3D battle management augmented reality visors. So modern military strategy dictates a rapid shift towards network-centric warfare where information dominance is the ultimate deciding factor in survival. In a highly asymmetric, fast-paced combat environments, infantry units and field commanders are consistently fighting through the fog of war. A lack of real-time situational awareness leads to tactical vulnerabilities and devastating friendly fire incidents. The 9th invention introduces wearable 3D augmented reality visors seamlessly connected to an integrated centralized digital battlefield management cloud. In layman's terms, this technology gives real-life soldiers the heads-up display HUD interface seen in modern science fiction video games. The hardware consists of a ruggedized, ballistic-rated visor worn over the eyes. As the soldier navigates a chaotic combat zone, the visor actively projects critical tactical intelligence directly over their physical view of the real world. Friendly troops are highlighted with bright green markers, for example, visible even when they're hidden behind walls, smoke or thick foliage. Hostile targets identified by high altitude drones or satellites are flagged in red, and optimal navigation waypoints hover directly above the physical dirt paths. Platoon leaders can silently share 3D topological maps and issue visual directives to their entire squad simultaneously without speaking a word over radio. This is accomplished by using highly advanced holographic optical waveguides. So light from a micro display hidden in the helmet is injected into a thin piece of glass in the visor. The light bounces internally within the glass until it hits microscopic gratings that extract the light directly into the user's pupil. So it beams it into their eye and creates a seamless floating image. So to ensure these digital markets line up perfectly with the real world as the soldier runs, ducks or turns their head, integrated motion sensors and outward-facing cameras use cutting-edge computing AI algorithms to execute perfect sub-millimeter spatial mapping of the environment. This hardware fuses massive data streams from space-based GPS, maritime 3D radar, unmanned drones and ground sensors, dramatically reducing the cognitive load on the operator. As global defence ministries aggressively modernise infantry loadouts to harden tactical networks against cyber warfare and improve interoperability among allied coalition forces, this AR integration is projected to drive sustained defence spending, capturing a market value of $600 billion over the next 10 years. The 10th invention is 2 photon absorption holographic radiotherapy simulators. So Radiation therapy is a vital cornerstone of modern oncology. The clinical goal is agonisingly delicate. Doctors must deliver a maximum lethal dose of radiation to a malignant tumour while perfectly sparing the adjacent healthy organs. Achieving this balance relies entirely on meticulous 3D treatment planning. However, oncologists and medical physicists are currently forced to view these highly complex 3D spatial radiation plans on flat 2D computer monitors, inherently limiting their physiological depth perception. So the 10th invention is a 2-photon absorption holographic radiotherapy simulator. So in layman's terms, this is a physical transparent viewing cube made of heavy glass or polymer resting right on a doctor's desk. So when a patient's radiation treatment plan is loaded into the hospital's computer, the interior of the cube illuminates with a glowing true 3D holographic heat map of the patient's internal anatomy and the planned radiation dose. The map is intensely colour-coded. Blue areas represent low radiation, while bright red indicates lethal strike zone. Because the autonomy is glowing physically in a 3D space, the oncologist can walk around the cube and immediately visually confirm if the planned radiation beams will accidentally intersect the spinal cord, optic nerves or heart before the patient is ever placed inside the actual radiation machine. Any adjustments made on the computer instantly update the physical 3D hologram in real time. The physics underlying this simulator rely on a highly stable liquid filling of the cube, which contains luminescent materials called quantum dots. 2 intersecting infrared laser beams sweep through the liquid. Because of the unique phenomenon called 2-photon absorption, the quantum dots only light up at the exact concentrated point where the 2 beams cross, absorbing 2 invisible infrared particles simultaneously to instantly emit a single visible particle of light. By flashing the lasers at megahertz speeds, the system draws a glowing, persistent 3D hologram directly inside the liquid. This technology is entirely unprecedented because it fully automates complex workflows, mitigates the risk of catastrophic human error in radiation dosing, and provides undeniable immediate clinical visualization that is fundamentally impossible to perceive on traditional flat displays. As global cancer incidence rises and the shortage of trained medical physicists intensifies, Tier 1 oncology treatment centres will rapidly adopt these simulators to ensure maximum patient safety, yielding a highly lucrative £25 billion market capture. Conclusion: Intellectual Property Declaration and Acquisition Prospectus. As this comprehensive report demonstrates, the commercialisation of the Imagenta 2.0 portfolio represents a tectonic shift in the global economy. By applying dominant market penetration metrics to the forecasted 2035 growth curves, the total aggregate 10-year market value for these 10 core inventions is rigorously calculated at 11.21 trillion. To conclude this presentation, I must transition from analysing the technology to explicitly detailing its ownership and the parameters for its commercial acquisition. I am Brodie Nathaniel Diorsa MacLeod. I am the sole inventor, creator and legal owner of the suite of 10 advanced technological architectures encompassing nanophotonics, electro-optics and quantum mechanics, collectively referred to as the Imagenta 2.0 modalities. While these technologies have not yet been registered by public patent systems, I retain absolute and executive legal ownership over them. Under British and international intellectual property law, my ownership is heavily protected under several stringent legal classifications. First, the proprietary knowledge, technical specifications and combinational engineering mechanics of these 10 inventions constitute highly valuable trade secrets. I possess the exclusive legal right to control, license or sell this proprietary knowledge under the UK Trade Secrets Enforcement etc. Regulations 2018 and the International TRIPS Agreement managed by the World Trade Organization. Secondarily, under Copyright Designs and Patent Act 1988, I hold automatic copyright over all technical documentation, algorithms and architectures. Finally, I hold unregistered design rights over the physical structures of these inventions, preventing any third party from legally copying their configuration. By acquiring this technology suite pre-patent, the acquiring entity is purchasing the foundational right to patent. The assignee will have the exclusive global right to file initial priority patent applications internationally, naming themselves as the ultimate commercial beneficiary while ensuring maximum unexpired patent life from the date they choose to file. I'm entirely open to offers on the intellectual property rights from the elite venture capitalists that might be interested, or large conglomerates driving the AI and hardware revolution specifically, such as Nvidia, Tesla, Apple, or Microsoft. I'm keen to sell the IP rights as soon as possible to seamlessly integrate these deep tech physical platforms into global architectures, thereby revolutionizing the entire information technology substrate on Earth with this unique technology. However, crucial logistical parameters govern the negotiation process. I've recently been the victim of a severe cybercrime incident which resulted in my emergency crisis admission. That's not why I was admitted to hospital, and nothing to do with cybercrime. But the bit that's accurate and hasn't just been AI bullshit is that any and all negotiations regarding the sale and acquisition of the Imagenta 2.0 intellectual property rights must be conducted entirely in person. I'm available for meetings in person at any time. They must occur at my current location. I'm currently located at Nash Ward within Signet Hospital, Quaystoke. Nash Ward operates as a specialised male psychiatric intensive care unit designed for rapid stabilisation. The facility is located at Beach Road, Quaystoke, Weston-super-Mare, Bravo Sierra 22 9UZ. Representatives from interested tech conglomerates or venture capital firms must adhere to the hospital's strict visiting protocols. Visits must be pre-arranged with the ward staff, requiring a minimum of 24 hours notice, and visitors must utilise entrance 1 upon arrival to register and obtain security clearance. The acquisition of Imagenta 2.0 suite represents an unparalleled opportunity to monopolise the foundational hardware and software infrastructure of the next decade. I invite the leaders of the technology sector to meet with me, acquire this intellectual property, and unlock the multi-trillion-pound future of the quantum photonic era. Cheers.